So you're looking at my Himalayan lamp again. Trying to keep it in a quiet area. You might hear my washer and dryer going on. I'm sorry about that. Trying to keep it away from my little doggies. Um, and you might also notice I have not put out a video for a while. I still have some that are still private of some cooking and, some crafts. I haven't released those yet. But I have not been on YouTube at all. I don't know what's going on out there. Um, I haven't looked at YouTube. Um, some things have happened in my life that has been more important than the drama that's going on. And I'm going to share. And I know that I've said before, some people put out so much private information about themselves that they don't have to. But I am going to share, something that happened. And, sometimes when things happen to subs, some viewers or even a creator, it just puts things into perspective that some of this nastiness and this drama that goes on just seems so stupid on YouTube. It really does. And I'm gonna share. And that's why I put a trigger warning, because it is a trigger warning to a lot of people that might have went through this or might be going through this. I was in the middle of making a video and I got a call from my daughter-in-law, and this was Sunday morning, that my children's father, and I've made comments before that I'm a domestic violence survivor, that would be from him, my children's father, that he shot himself. And at this point in time, she didn't have any details. Okay, she didn't know anything, because she got the phone call from my son, but that's all she could tell me. She didn't know anything. So of course, everything was put on hold. I was waiting to hear from my children what was going on. Now, I do have to say, I do not live in the same state as my children. All right, I live in a different state. They live in the same state as their father. My children are grown, and what they decided to do was sell their place, and they wanted to buy acreage and build a cabin. All right. Their father kind of talked him into that. He was doing the same. And they wanted a bunch of acres, and they wanted to build a nice cabin and have farm animals and do a homestead that they could pass down to their children, and that's just something that wasn't for me. I'm older, and I wanted to downsize, and that's, been there, done that. Did not want to go into having a big piece of property anymore, or I wanted low maintenance. So, I would FaceTime. I'm very close to my kids, FaceTime them, daily. But they did not live far from their father. And they live very close to each other, even though they have all this acres, they still lived close to each other. So, anyways, with their father, even though, um, I've been divorced from him for many years. Uh, I forgave him. And I know I'm backpedaling here. I forgave him for all the issues that we had and for what, happened to me. But he had mental issues. Okay, he did. He was bipolar. Even though he would say he wasn't, I knew he was because back when we were married, I took him to the doctor. He was prescribed medication. He took medication way back then, and I don't believe he ever took it again. He had issues. We would fight even after we were divorced. I had an issue with him stalking me and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into all that. But I forgave him. But he would want to keep bringing up the past, and he still, I got to the point where I didn't fear him anymore. And we would be cordial. I mean, there would be a couple of times where, my kids are adults, and he would be like, you need to tell your kids to do this or that. And it's like, no, if you have an issue with them, you need to deal with it. I don't have an issue with my children. It's you that needs, you need to deal with it. Besides that, we were pretty cordial. As a matter of fact, before this happened, I was looking on my phone, and we were texting like a couple of weeks before this all happened. And like I said, I forgave him for, the past and moved on. And I've told him that many, many times before. I just don't think that he forgave himself. But the issues that he would have with my children is that he would start things with them. And for some reason, my two older children, not my youngest child. Now, my youngest child, he's an adult as well, but he does have health issues. And he didn't start things with him, and my youngest child didn't see the abuse like the two older ones did growing up, because I left him when my youngest was a lot younger. So he doesn't remember all of it, and he wasn't jaded, as I say. But the two older ones, they would forgive him too, and they really wanted a relationship with their father, okay? And they really tried hard. And their father, for some reason that I will never understand, would want the kids to fight being adults. And he would try to start arguments between them, and it just didn't work. I mean, they might stay mad at each other for a day until they would talk to each other and find out that their father was trying to start drama between them. And I will never understand that. And my kids are very close to each other. I mean, they'll start, they're siblings, right? Even as adults, siblings are not always going to see eye to eye. But they would notice that their dad would do this. And this was a pattern with their father. And they would get into an argument with their father and might not talk to him for a month or two, and they would be like, we're done with him, because he would start so much drama with them. And then they would say, they would tell me, Mom, we're done. He's starting so much, we can't take it anymore. And they would not talk to him for a month or two, and then it would be like they'd be talking to him again. And I've always encouraged my kids to have a relationship with their father as long as it wasn't toxic. But after a month or two, they would start talking to him again, and they would have a relationship again, and everything would be, great. And it would be great for a while, and then it was the same pattern. Their father would go unhinged, and he would make a lot of threats to them. a lot of threats about self-harming. And he would do these threats about self-harming even back when we were married. And also make threats on them as well. All right? And they would not take the threats seriously, but I know it still scared them because they remembered what he would do to me and them when they were younger. But I know that, I'm kind of rambling here, but this is all still so fresh. Their father, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. About 7 years ago, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. So he lost a lot of weight, and he was frail. Okay, he wasn't he wasn't anybody that I would fear. I mean, I could probably knock him down myself now, and I'm not a big person. I'm kind of small, but the kind of lung cancer, the doctor told him that he had a very uh, his chances of survival weren't that great, and he did do chemo, but I don't even think that he finished his chemo. He did not lose his hair, and their father exaggerated a lot as well, and I seen his medical records. He definitely had chemo or cancer. I'm sorry, lung cancer, and he had a port. I seen his port, and he beat it, and I was shocked. I was shocked that he beat it. I mean, going on all these years, and I don't even think he finished his chemo. I really don't. I think he stopped taking the chemo. I mean, he threatened to stop it, but I think because the kids took him to some of his chemo treatments, and I don't think he finished his chemo treatments. I think he stopped. He had diabetes, and at one point, he was taking insulin shots, and he quit taking those. And he was not taking care of himself. He had other issues. I know one time he did have a stroke. This man, he, even with lung cancer and doing chemo, he still smoked like continuously, like a chimney. He chain smoked the entire time. He did not take care of himself at all. And he lost a lot of weight, and he looked really sickly. So I don't think, even with all the threats that the kids, I mean, they felt very uncomfortable, but I don't think that they took it really seriously, especially when he threatened them, because he did. He threatened them a lot. Um, but then they just wouldn't talk to him. But something made them say, they felt bad for their father. He was alone. Um, and they still wanted that relationship. They still craved to have a relationship with their father, and they still felt bad for him. So moving on from that, um, like I said, this has been going on for years. Okay, from them being adults, him threatening them, with self harm, and even threatening them, with "I'm gonna get you" or whatever. They would still make up with him eventually. And he would tell them, "I love you, and I don't know why I say the things I do." Um, he was very good to the grandchildren. Now, they didn't leave him alone with the grandkids, they were always there. But he was very, very good with the grandkids. Um, the grandkids loved him. And like I said, my kids wouldn't let him leave him alone with the grandkids, just because they knew that he would flip flop back and forth. Um, they just wanted their dad. They wanted that relationship, and they tried so hard They really did. They tried so hard to make peace with this man. And they knew that his health was failing because, I don't know if they thought the cancer might come back. They just wanted peace. I mean, I've always had a good relationship with my kids. The one thing I regret is having to work so hard and work so many hours with them growing up. I regret that. But I've always had a great relationship with my kids. And I don't know if their dad was jealous of that. I mean, he always would make comments about that, about the relationship I had with them, but I'm their mom. I don't know. But anyways, this last incident, I mean, right before this, they were all getting along, okay? They were getting along with their dad. They had some finishing touches that they wanted to do to their cabins and stuff. Well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit more. My kids all got COVID not too long ago, like last month. And the grandkids got COVID. So when my kids got COVID, it just trickled down. They got it, all of them, because like I said, they live by each other. They will eat dinner sometimes with each other. They help each other. They all got it. So he was the only one at that time that wasn't around them for that period of time. So he went and got, made sure that they had food. He made sure that they were, had the stuff that they needed. And he took very good care of them, And my daughter, she's the one out of all of them that had it, she had it the worst. She had the trouble breathing. And none of them ended up in the hospital, thank God. And my son-in-law, he still to this day, I mean, this was not that long ago. Like I said, just last month, he still has no sense of smell. But my son-in-law and my son, they missed work. They couldn't go to work. But my ex, like I said, he made sure that he was doing getting the meds, getting everything that they needed, Tylenol, food, everything, and making sure everybody was taken care of. And then he came down with COVID. But he had COVID pneumonia, and he had to go to the hospital. They took him to now this was, they started feeling better, and they got another test, and they tested negative before he came down with it. And he ended up in the hospital. I think it was just overnight. He was like delirious. He didn't know where he was at. They didn't know what was going on. He wasn't running a fever or anything, but they took him to the hospital because he was like really confused. It was really strange, and they thought, maybe he had COVID, but they weren't sure. So they took him to the hospital, and he had COVID pneumonia. And they did send him home, but he was just like, he didn't know who they were. He was just really, bad in that way. And they took turns staying with him because when he would wake up, he would like freak out if somebody wasn't there with him, and he would wander out of his place. He would wander out of his place and start walking down the road, and it's cold where they're at too, and just start walking down the road. And so my younger son was the one that was staying with him most of the time because my daughter's a mother. And my other son, um, he went back to work. My son-in-law had to go back to work because they've missed work. They tested negative. They were able to go back to work. And, to give my youngest son a break, my younger son a break, my daughter, she would go down there. I mean, it was just, it was getting, it was getting much trying to take care of him because he was like kind of like a toddler, trying to keep him under control. But they did, and they had to give him his medication because he's taking medication for other things, for other health issues, and making sure that he ate and stuff. And like I said, he didn't know who he was, he didn't know who they were, and they were calling me saying, "Mom, we don't know what to do with them." You know, he just if we leave the place, leave his house to run up and get something or whatever, he's wandering out of his house, and he's losing it. But they took very good care of him, and as a matter of fact, he gave me, once he got over it and got through it, he gave me a call, and he's like, our children, they took very good care of me. And he even explained that, he doesn't even remember, that those couple of days of doing some of the things that he was doing. I think he cut up his driver's license. He doesn't remember any of this stuff. But this was only, oh goodness, when he had COVID, I think this was like maybe 2.5 weeks ago when all this went down. Um, about 2.5 weeks ago. And he called me and he was like, they were just great. They made sure I was fed, and, they all took turns, and, they did all this for me. But see, he did it for them. And see, this is what family does, right? This is how it should be. And this is why I don't understand why this happened. And he even told me that he was scared to death. One thing that he does remember is he was scared to death to go to sleep, that he was not going to wake up. And I think that might be why he wanted someone with him at all times. He was scared that he was not going to wake up. This man was scared to die, but yet he took his own life. Now, this is where I'm doing the trigger warning on my video. Because not only did he take his life, okay, he did it in front of my children. He did it in front of them. All three of them. And my son-in-law. Now, on Sunday, this is the story that I got. Yeah, I already said my daughter-in-law called me. She didn't know what was going on because she got the phone call from my son. Of course, my son is upset, probably, I'm sure he was crying. And she called me immediately. And guys, you got to bear with me because, like I said, this is still so fresh. I'm still in shock. But and I'm when I first was told what happened, my kids were still crying. I just got back in town. I just got back in town yesterday. Um, Unfortunately, I would have stayed longer if I could have, but I had to come back. I'm probably gonna go back because they need me. But I had to come back for other reasons, and then I'll be going back because my kids don't have anybody there. Like I said before, they build these cabins. It's not like they know they don't know people there. It's not like they know one neighbor there. That's it. They don't know. It's not like they have a community there that can help them out, bring meals or anything like that. They don't have that there. Okay? They don't know anybody. Um, so, anyways, on Saturday, my ex started his crap again with my two eldest children, trying to get them to argue. For whatever reason, I don't know. This is a pattern. And of course, my children talked amongst themselves and found out, that he was doing this. And Sunday, they were going to be celebrating my grandchild's birthday. They planned a birthday party for my grandchild. And of course, their father was invited. You know, they already had, the cake, ice cream, and everything ready. And they were having the birthday party for my grandson. Um, but he started his crap again, and they're like, you know what? We just want to be left alone. That's how it normally is. You're starting your crap. We don't want to hear it. We just want to be left alone. Well, his neighbor, their father's neighbor, who their father is friends with, needed help. He had, I guess they got some rain, a lot of rain. He needed help. He had a camper that was in the front yard, or in his front yard, or by the road, or whatever. And he needed it moved because they were going to get some more rain. And his wife has MS, and he has a 13-year-old son. And I guess he had a falling out with their father, which this is not normal. Their father does not have many friends. Okay? He will make friends and then he has falling out with them because, as you can imagine. So he asked my children if they would help him move this. It was stuck, I guess. I'm not sure the whole story behind it. It was stuck, and he needed help because he just purchased property up there. And my kids said, yes, we'll do this, before we get ready for the birthday party or whatever. So all three of my children and my son-in-law went to go help him move this camper. And the camper was parked right, the neighbor's property, it was parked like right by their father's, like where their father's driveway is. Okay? So my children are helping, the neighbor get this camper moved. And their father comes out of his place and he goes up to the neighbor and starts some crap with the neighbor and starts yelling at the neighbor. And I guess my daughter just said, Dad, we want to hurry up and get this done because we're having my grandson's birthday party, just stop, we just want to hurry up and get this done. Her father made a comment that you all have to sleep sometime and glared at her. And she said the look that he had was very strange. It was something she never seen in his eyes before, ever. And he had a big knife. And this part I don't understand. He had a big knife in front of him. And my one son, not the youngest son, my youngest son was there, but my one son, which is the oldest son, he's my middle child, he swung that knife at my son out of the blue. And then they told him to put the knife down. And then he went back into his place and someone yelled out, call the police. That's what my daughter said, that someone yelled out, call the police. And he comes back out of his home and he's got a gun. And he comes in his driveway, and his driveway's, I didn't know the visual of all this until I went there. And his driveway is very short. It's a very small driveway. And my kids are in the road. And they yelled, he's got a gun. And he looked at my son-in-law and my son. And he said, I got something for you. And he kneeled down, and this makes no sense, guys. This really makes no sense that he kneeled down. And he put the gun in his mouth. And he went to pull the trigger, and they're yelling at him, no, don't do it, don't do it. They're begging him not to do it. He put the gun in his mouth. He tried to pull the trigger, but the safety was on, and he pulled the gun out. He undone the safety, put it back in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger. And my daughter said this all happened like within 15 to 20 minutes from the time that they got to the neighbor's house, which was, to the camper. This all happened within 15 to 20 minutes. And I got the phone call. My son, after I got the call from my daughter-in-law, then my son called me and we always FaceTime. We never, they never just call me, they FaceTime, we video chat, whatever. He called me and he's just bawling and bawling. And he's like, he's gone, Mom. There was nothing I could do. What could I have done? And then my daughter's calling me, and I was on the phone with him, and my youngest, my youngest son, he's not showing any emotion right now. Well, he is. He's very angry. He was the closest to his father because, like I said, he didn't see any of the abuse. And he's the one that I've mentioned before that likes to meditate. And he got his dad to drink like teas and trying to get his dad to meditate and stuff like that. My son is really into that. He's very angry. And my kids are going back and forth. We know that there's different stages of grief. They're going back and forth. Very sad. Can't believe he's gone. They're part of them are feeling somewhat of a relief that they're not going to be threatened anymore, because with their dad it was like walking on eggshells. You just did not know when he was going to flip and start threatening you. But they're sad that, he's gone. They can't believe he's gone, that he's not gonna, they're not gonna have coffee. My daughter would have coffee with him when they weren't arguing. My son, he helped my son, with his cabin. My son helped his dad. They would go four-wheeling together when they weren't fighting. They still tried to bond with their father, no, even after all the bullshit that he put him through. Or put all of them through, I'm sorry. And, I told my kids, I know he loved you. He just did not know how to show you. Because I've talked to my ex, and he would just say, I just want to be a decent father. I just don't know how. But the thing that angers me the most, and I think it angers them, and I just can't get past, is they don't just have to live with that their father took his own life. I mean, that's hard enough to deal with. But he made sure that he did it in front of them. The last image that they see, as you can imagine, if someone puts a gun in their mouth, he made sure that that is what they seen. He could have did this in his home, but he made sure he came outside. And he made sure that it was done in front of all three of them and my son-in-law. And see, my son-in-law was an Army medic, and he was also an EMT. And he's seen a lot of ugly things. And he has been breaking down. And he did not like my ex at all. He did not. And he has been breaking down. He broke down twice when I was there. They cannot get that image out of their heads. They can't. And I've been having visions of my own of, what they told me and what that would look like. And I went to the place, and the neighbor brought up some gravel to put over that, put over the spot. But I can't imagine. I can't imagine what my kids, that last image that their father made sure that they seen. It was like a last F you to my kids. Who does that? Who does that? What kind of parent does that? I mean, I understand mental health, okay? Having a mental break. I understand having mental issues, all right? I completely get it. But to do this in front of your children, so not only do they have to live with not just losing your parent, okay? That's the first thing. That's the first thing that you have to live with, is losing a parent. But then you have to live with losing a parent to suicide. But then you have to live with watching your parent do it in front of you. And he made sure that all three of them, all three of his children and his son-in-law, seen it happen. I can't get past that. I can't imagine my children that still love this man, no matter what, unconditionally, because he was their father, how they are feeling. And there's nothing I can do to take that pain away or take those visions away that they have. And thank God they got therapy set up. My daughter, as a matter of fact, she just went to therapy yesterday. She was able to get in that fast. She actually had therapy before because she thought she was going through something else. Thank God it wasn't. It was a health scare, and it wasn't what she thought it was, thank God. But anyway, she was able to get in. My son, he has his set up, and my youngest agreed to go, which I'm shocked, my youngest son, but he agreed to go, so he's getting his set up. So they're all set up, and I'm praying my son-in-law does as well, because they're going to need it. Now, was this planned? No, it couldn't have been. I don't think so. Because, see, their father was on disability. Okay? He got disability when he found out he had lung cancer. And he, as soon as he got his disability on the 3rd, he made his property payment. My daughter, she already looked at, his stuff, and he made that payment. He paid his bills. They were paid. He also, excuse me, he got SSDI, and he always complained that he just didn't make enough. And you can work when you're on SSDI. You can only make so much. And he had a job interview for part-time that Monday. And as a matter of fact, she had his phone, and she was so upset when I was FaceTiming her because they called because he didn't show up, of course, to that job interview. And she had to tell them, she let it go to whatever, voicemail or whatever. And they sent a text, and she's like, I got to call them and tell them. She didn't tell them what happened. She just said that he passed away. Later on, she called him back. But he set up a job interview. So if this was somebody that was planning this, why would they pay their bills? Why would they set up a job interview? It makes no sense. Something snapped in him. Was it that he was scared that he was going to go to jail because he pulled a knife out on my son and was swinging it? And he heard somebody say, call the police. Now, my ex was always scared to go to jail. He's went to jail a couple of times for domestic violence. And another thing is he's not allowed to own a gun because of domestic violence. He's not allowed to have a gun. So is that what set this in motion? I don't know. My daughter swears that when he walked by her, because he did walk by her to go talk to the neighbor, he just glared at her and the look in his eyes, and she swears, Mom, she goes, that wasn't him in there. She goes, that wasn't Dad. She said it was someone else. Now, I don't know about, demons or whatever. I mean, I know that he has fought demons all his life. Okay, he has. I don't know. He never wanted to take accountability. Okay, I don't want to really say he fought demons. He would always like to put blame on other people. It was always somebody else's fault why his life was the way it was. But he beat lung cancer. He beat the COVID. Okay? And then he did this. And like I said, he was scared with the lung cancer. He was scared of the COVID. So none of this makes any sense at all. None of it. That's why my daughter, she's just like, the look in his eye, Mom, it was just, that was not Dad at all. It was just not Dad. And why he went after my son, I don't know. I know, they were telling him to go back into his house and to stop his crap. And just to let them, take care of this stuff so they can do my grandson's birthday. But, this will kind of tell you a little bit of his thinking. He told me, and he told the kids too, a while back, he got a small life insurance policy. I mean, it was very small. just enough to, he always said he wanted cremated because his mother uh, was cremated. And her ashes were taken to a place that she really enjoyed. It was, the cremation was cheap, but to do what she wanted to do was not. They have a family plot, okay? But that's not where his mother wanted to be. She wanted it done a certain way. She had a living will, and we went by her wishes. And that's exactly, ever since his mother passed away years ago, that's exactly what he always said he wanted done. He made that clear to me when I was still married to him. He made it clear when he had lung cancer. That's what he wanted done. So he had a small life insurance policy uh, that he got, and he said he wanted to make sure that, when he had the lung cancer, and then, even a few years back, he even told me and he told the children, he wanted to make sure that the kids would not be burdened with having to, if anything happened to him, because, like I said, he was not healthy, that they wouldn't be burdened with, having to pay for anything because, my kids struggle as everybody else does. They have children. And, now with them, doing this purchase that they purchased, and, we all struggle, okay? But then he told me as well, and he's told them that, well, he told me and he told them, when he was arguing with them, that he was going to cancel the life insurance policy because this life insurance policy, guys, was only 10,000. Okay, it would have been enough to cremate him, and it would be enough to give the kids like maybe 1,000, 2,000 each. Actually, not even that. Not if he wanted done what he wanted done. I'm not going to explain what he wanted, how he wanted. He wanted cremated, and then what he wanted done. I'm not going to explain all that. But it would probably give my kids 1,000 each after he wanted done like his mother. Okay? His father is also passed away, and he's in the family burial plot, okay? His mother did not want to be put in the family burial plot. She wanted to be cremated and something else done, and that's what he wanted done. And it would leave the kids with like 1,000 each. But he kept saying that, he didn't want the kids to be burdened with this, but then he would threaten that I don't want the kids to have nothing, so I'm going to cancel that policy. It's like, okay, And then he would say, no, I'm not going to do that. And then he told me at one time that he couldn't afford, I think it was like maybe $70 or $80 that he had to pay every month for this small $10,000 life insurance policy, and that he couldn't afford it. And then I don't know. But then his friend, he did have someone that he did speak to occasionally, who is also still a friend of mine, who has been there for my kids. He has been going there since this all happened, and I'm very grateful for that. But he spoke with my ex, like, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And my ex told him that he did cancel it. And the reason why he canceled it, and this makes no sense, is that Social Security said that it was too much of a life insurance policy and they were going to cut his benefits or something, so he canceled it out. That makes no sense, because, like I said, he gets SSDI, not SSI, which are two totally different things. And he's also worked on SSDI part time within the years, which you can do. You're allowed to make so much. And he also had a job interview. So that makes no sense. You know, could it be true? Yeah, it could be, I guess. I don't know. Um, but my daughter didn't find any paperwork on the life insurance policy. Uh, Apparently, and it doesn't look like he's made any payments to anything because he didn't have any money in the bank because he made his property payment and his like car insurance. I mean, he made all that just on the 3rd when he got paid. So he made all those payments and he had a little bit. He had like a couple $100 in the bank and that was it. So there is no life insurance policy. So I don't know where, I have no clue. I don't know if he was just saying that or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because most life insurance policies, if you commit suicide, they have that clause. I mean, I guess there is some that would cover if you take your own life, but I know that most of them, if you take your own life, at least that's what I've been told, they won't cover. So I don't know. I'm just rambling. And I do apologize. I really do. But he kind of, in the end, he knows that, my kids, they sunk a lot of money into building their cabins. Okay? And they paid cash for their cabins. They're still paying on the property. One child bought 11 acres. The other one bought 6 acres. My youngest son, he is staying with me. Like I said, he's got health issues. So, and their cabins, though, that's been cash that they used cash to do that. They didn't, take out loans or anything. So, and they just finished doing that. They're just kind of putting like their own little finishing touches on it. And he knew that they had COVID. So they missed work from COVID. And he knew there was no life insurance money, and he knew they would be responsible for taking care of his burial, not burial, cremation, burial, whatever it is, that they would be responsible for his stuff because they're next to kin. My daughter, being the oldest, is the next to kin, but of course, all three of them are going to, they're going to work together and do this. And then doing what he did in front of them, it was like a big old cluster F you to my kids. Putting them not only in a putting them in a mental shambles, but also a financial shamble. If that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm just rambling. So he's putting them financially in a hardship on top of the mental anguish that he put them in. And he doesn't have anything, okay? He doesn't have anything. Like I said, a couple $100 in the bank. The cabin that he has on the property goes back to, it will go, the cabin's on the property. So they've already talked to, it's like a corporation that owns it's not a bank per se, okay? So the property's just got, my kids, if they wanted to keep paying on this property, they could have it, but I guess, I'm sure you can imagine they don't want it, okay? and they don't need the financial burden of it. But thank God it's not like they got to pay it off. What this company does is if somebody doesn't pay on the property, it just, okay, you can give it back to us. You don't owe on it anymore. That's the contract they sign. You don't owe us anymore. We'll just turn around and the money you put down on it, we'll just sell it to somebody else. And they kind of have a gain on it because he built his cabin and it's already done. So they have a piece of property now that's got a cabin that's already built. Because all they sell is the property. They don't sell the cabin that's already on it, if that makes any sense. So now they have a tract of property. I think it's like 5 acres, and it's already got a cabin built on it. But he has nothing besides his vehicle, that wasn't worth much of anything, and just, a few things that are in the cabin, personal stuff. That's it. He didn't have anything. But my children, being the good-hearted kids that they are, even though they're angry that the last vision of their father is something they're going to have to relive every day of their lives, they know what their dad's last wishes were. And that was to be cremated and to, like I said, to be done like what we did with his mother. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to do. Because that's what their dad would have wanted. That's what their dad wanted. No matter what he did to them, no matter how much he hurt my kids, they want to fulfill his last wishes. And that's exactly what they're doing. And using their own money to do it. I'm sorry, guys. And of course, I'm Mama. I'm going to help him out. And my in-laws, my ex's mom and dad, they were wonderful people. I love them. I used to live next door to them, and I know people would say, gosh, live next door to in-laws. He might have been a jerk, but my in-laws were the greatest. They were. I love them. I did. They were the best. And I know he had a lot of issues with his dad, and his dad might not have been the greatest dad, but he was very good to me, and he was very good to my children. But I had wonderful, wonderful in-laws, and even though they passed away before I got away from him, they knew about the abuse, they seen the abuse, and they tried to help me. They did. But his dad also abused his mom. Um, it stopped way before I came into the picture, before I got into that family. But I guess that's where it was learned. But I still loved my in-laws. I did. And they were great, wonderful grandparents to my children. And my kids, they want to fulfill their father's last wishes, no matter what he did, no matter how much it's going to cost. And then on top of this, their father's brother, who lives where I live, same state, they had to call him. And I used to get along really well with him. I went to high school with him and his wife until I divorced his brother. And, he used to tell me all the time, you need to divorce him because he's seen the abuse. But then when I did, we didn't talk anymore. Well, they had to call him, and he's like, I'm headed there. And then he started threatening my kids, saying that, oh, you pushed your father to do this, and had my kids, scared and worried, and, because, he's can be just as crazy as his father, or as their father. And they even had to call the police. Now, granted, my children, they carry, but still, they stay. My daughter, she was staying up all night. She couldn't sleep. I mean, this just happened. She just witnessed all this. And now you have her uncle that is making threats and heading to where they're at. And so they called the police to have the police patrolling, see if they could patrol their property and stuff. I mean, they shouldn't have to deal with all this. But in the end, the uncle and his wife, they didn't come see them first. They went to the police, and they wanted the police report to see what happened in the story. And after they got the story from the police and everything, then they called my children, and they were supportive then. So I'm very thankful for that. The uncle was not happy that my daughter, being the next of kin, being the oldest child, was in charge of everything. But, my kids basically said, if there's anything in his place that you want, you're more than welcome to it. Dad wanted, what Dad wanted. He wanted cremated. He wanted this done that you guys did with Grandma. So, I mean, in the end, everybody was in agreement. Their dad didn't have anything. But he's being supportive of them now. So that's all that matters. And I'm just upset that he was, on the same day that they had to witness all this, he was being such a jerk. But, I explained to my kids, this is probably a shock to him, even though he knew that his brother had issues. This is probably a big shock, and he's hurt too. So just talk to him. Talk to him. You guys are family, you're blood. And they did. And they're all okay now. I think he's still there. I think he might be leaving to head back this way. He actually even told my kids to tell me He wishes me well and thank you. And, because my kids told me, or told him that I was on good terms with their dad, which he should know because, he would talk to their dad on the phone. I don't know what their dad said to him because a lot of times their dad, he did not tell the truth. He didn't. And I know this video is going on a lot longer than I planned, and I do apologize, but so some people are going to ask me, why are you putting your personal business out there? True. Because I did say before, we don't have to, as creators, put personal business out there. We don't. But I've heard creators, I've heard people say, if somebody talks about that they're going to self-harm, because I've heard some creators and some subs or some viewers say, some people have pushed me to almost self-harm or want to self-harm myself. And other people say, no, that can't happen. If somebody talks about it all the time, it's the people that don't talk about it that you got to worry about. And guys, I used to think that myself. Last summer, I had a very good friend of mine who used to talk about self-harming all the time. Last summer, he did. He ended his life. Little different scenario because he was a very good person. He was a very good person. He was just hurting so bad. But he talked about it a lot. Openly. That he wanted to end his life. And we just thought, he was crying wolf all the time. Until he did it. A little bit different with my ex, though. But I never thought my ex would really do it either, because he's been talking about this for years. For years and years and years. But yet, like I said, he seemed like he was so afraid to die. And then that's within 15 to 20 minutes of this all going down. Whether my daughter, like she said, it wasn't him. If something took over. If he was scared that he was going to go to jail. I don't know. But he has talked about doing this for years. Said it to me, said it to the kids, said it to whoever would listen. And he did it. The only difference is he made sure that my kids seen every bit of it. And he made sure that financially, knowing that they were struggling anyways because they were off work because of COVID, and on top of that, both my son and my son-in-law, because they were up close. My daughter was standing back, and my other son was standing back as well. They still seen it, but they didn't see it like my son and my son-in-law, my older son. Both of their jobs don't pay for bereavement. And, stupid me, because my job paid, the 3-day when my mom passed away, would give me the 3-day paid bereavement. Their jobs don't. They don't even get the 3-day paid bereavement to be off. And they took this entire week off because, you can imagine. They thought they could just, take a few days off and go back to work, and they're a mess. They're a complete mess. And not only does my son-in-law, going through this, what he's seen, but he's got to be strong for my daughter and the grandkids, as just like my son. And so, I just want to put out there that this changes my whole perspective when, people say, if people talk about it, they're not going to do it. Yeah, they will. You can't say that, because I used to think the same thing. I learned last summer that that's not true. And I learned it even more now. And also some will say, you don't talk bad about the dead. And I get that. I do. And I'm not trying to talk bad about the dead. But this one person, okay, this is totally different. He might be dead, but what he did to my children, is that forgivable? I don't know. It's up to them to forgive. And they're going to go through different stages, and they are going through it. Minute by minute. I don't know. I'm having a hard time forgiving him, for what he has done to my children. But it's up to them, because they had to witness it. And I was going to, and I still am, eventually do a video on domestic violence, which is, what he put me through, and I'm still going to do that video. Because if it can save one person out there, get them out of the situation and save them or their children, then it's worth it. And yes, it will be talking about him and what I went through. And he's dead. He's no longer here. Am I saying that he was a bad person all the time? No. Bad enough. Bad enough. And I was going to do a series on domestic violence. Because like I said, it's important to see those signs, and it's important to know that the most dangerous time for someone is when they're trying to get away. That's the most dangerous. And right after. But it's worth doing the video. It's worth it if it helps one person get away. And I'm sure there are viewers out there that are going through it. So, if it's talking about someone who's deceased because he was a part of it, sorry. Because I was already going to do a series on that before this happened. And I'm also going to do a series on mental health. Because, a lot of us, suffer from some sort of, panic attacks or, bipolar or, some sort of mental health. I mean, times are hard. Life is hard. And then you have, all this YouTube drama crap. it's really put things into perspective, you know. And like I said, I have unplugged completely. I haven't watched anything. I haven't. My kids needed me. You know, all this other stuff, and I know I'm not involved with anything like, you know, some creators are, but if something comes up that's important, you know, my kids needed me, everything else goes on the back burner. If something comes up that's important, that's real life important, everything else gets shoved on the back burner. And that comes first. And I know I've rambled a lot. I've put out some personal information, but I am going to continue. I am going to do the domestic violence videos, and I am going to do some mental health videos, and I am going to do some videos that might help with some stress relief, mental health relief, because I think we need more of that. We have a lot of drama, and yeah, I'm still going to do my videos on you know, behaviors. I mean, I'm still going to do that. I'm still going to do the cooking videos and stuff like that. I'll still cover behaviors, but I'm going to do some, you know, see if some stress relief, you know, different things to maybe help. It might not help, you know. It's not going to get the views like the drama, you know, what's going on out there, um, what's happening out there in YouTube land with the drama with the creators. You know, the other videos that I do is not going to get the views, and I don't care. If it helps one person, that's what counts. That's what counts. That's what's important to me. Not the views, not getting the subs. That's what counts. If one person, one comment says, you know, hey, I tried it and that helps, or I'm going to try it, that's what matters. But I'm going to go, guys. I don't know when I'll do. I might release some of, like I said, I did a couple of cooking videos and a couple of craft videos. I might release those. And I know this was long and it's a trigger warning. I'm sorry I rambled, but I still might have to take a few days here because I'm still, I'm back home, but, you know, my kids, they're still calling me. They come first. And like I said, we video chat when they call. We video chat, and they're going through a lot of emotions right now. So, as you can imagine, and I've already made this a lot longer, and I know I've rambled, and just everyone, you know, take care of yourself. And I don't know what to say. If someone, in this case, I don't think anything would have helped my ex. Nothing would have helped him because I don't know if he just snapped. I don't know if my daughter thinks a demon took over him. I don't know what to say about him. I don't know if he was reachable. You just had to have known the man to understand. But if anybody is talking about self-harming, I know you might want to say they might be crying wolf, but reach out a hand. Okay? Reach out. Everyone, take care. Be good to each other.